How's it going, guys, and welcome back to the Purple Box, the semi-regularly posted series where I try to chronicle every non-unique purple weapon in Borderlands 3 to let you know whether it's trash, treasure, or completely inconsequential. If you'd like to give any of the weapons showcased in this video a go, a save file containing all of them will be available in my Discord server, linked down in the description. But with that out of the way, Maliwan, keeping it sleek and sci-fi and offering best-in-class elemental weaponry. Whether you need to melt flesh from bone, metal from circuits, or just to keep your ice cream cold, Maliwan has you covered. Maliwan believes in all elemental all the time, with every gun not only always being elemental, but having the ability to swap between two completely different elements on the fly. As well as that, Maliwan weapons are the premier in elemental blasting as they don't suffer from the usual base damage reductions that come with elements. A radiation roll and a cryo damage roll will have the same base damage as each other. Usually, when compared to a kinetic weapon, corrosive incendiary and shock comes with a minus 20% base damage, with radiation at minus 25% and cryo having the smallest at minus 15%. But with Maliwan, 100% damage guaranteed or your money back. It's not all sunshine and elemental rainbows though. Premium space age tech like this comes with premium space age drawbacks. With Maliwan, that takes the form of all weapons needing a brief charge up before firing. Now actually getting on into things here, we'll start out with pistols, and each of the pistols is able to roll as both ×1 and ×2, and I'll be covering both variants. First up is the Atomizer, being our highest fire rate, lowest damage variant. After charging, this weapon will fire in full auto. We are starting off really strong here because god damn, the Atomizer absolutely lives up to its name, shredding anything you point at it apart at the atomic level. Around a 20k base damage with a 7.44 fire rate means that this gun is easily keeping up with plenty of legendary weapons in the damage stats, while also having pretty damn good accuracy and handling. The biggest issue this weapon has is its mag size, as it can blow through a mag pretty quickly, but not before obliterating the enemy in front of you. With the ×2, while the damage is definitely better, I don't think overall this is the better option. That mag size becomes way bigger of a problem here, and you're likely to be reloading after just a single kill of a trash mob. Damage is still impressive for a purple, but it's a lot more choppy to use compared to ×1. The Blaster, being our balanced damage and fire rate variant, also being full auto after the charge and dealing splash damage. The performance here is very similar to that of the Atomizer in literally almost every single way, with the only major difference being that it actually deals splash damage. And while it does have a decently lowered fire rate, it's not substantial given the fact that you get to now also scale your already higher damage with splash damage buffs as well. The Atomizer is great, but the Blaster is just better. Coming to the ×2, this also shares plenty of similarities with the Atomizer, being noticeably better damage for notably worse and more intrusive ammo consumption. It is still a very good gun, but overall once again worse than the ×1. The Melter is the highest base damage but lowest fire rate variant, being semi-auto and splash damage. This weapon doesn't actually have to be charged to be shot, though can be charged to deal additional damage with increased splash radius. Fully charging this weapon, it multiplies the base damage by 2, as well as the status effect damage and crit damage, as well as the status effect damage and that splash radius. Finally, a departure in functionality, and a pretty neat one at that. The Melter is more of a precision-focused high damage dealer. Do I dare call it a hand cannon? No. Like, by definition, it kinda is, but it doesn't really feel like one. It does feel pretty damn fun, though, and surprisingly strong, being able to pretty consistently two-shot and having the ability to hit some sick nasty one-shots. And given the damage buffing, high-powered splash damage nature of this gun, I can only imagine how much nastier it gets on Moes or just any proper splash setup. But with the ×2, this is a bit of a weird one. ×2 felt significantly weaker than the ×1, and it had nothing to do with ammo consumption, considering this is a semi-auto charge weapon. The damage just straight up at best felt the same, but more often felt worse, having the potential to 2 and more rarely 1-shot, but more often taking 3 to 4, if not more. I have no idea why the hell this is. The only reason I can think of is that playing dirty is benefiting it less since the per projectile damage is lower, but it's not that much lower, and overall it should still be doing more damage. So maybe that charge buff is being split weirdly with having 2 projectiles on card. I have no idea. The ×2 version of this gun sucked. And finally, the Devourer, our alien barrel variant. The Devourer rapidly fires sticky projectiles that stick to enemies, detonating after a brief delay to deal increased damage. This is fully auto, of course, and has no charge to it. I mean, it's an alien barrel pistol, and these are usually pretty hit or miss, but surprisingly, the Devourer is just kinda there. It's not bad, but it's also really not good. It eats ammo like a motherfucker, and often you end up dumping out way more bullets than are required to kill an enemy due to the nature of these sorts of sticky darts, but like it does kill, and it kills decently for the most part. At least until you turn it on a badass. Then it kills less good. And with the ×2, once again, very similar to the Melter, we have another ×2 that just feels substantially worse than the ×1 for some reason. Except in this case, the ×1 was also pretty shit, so damn that sucks for the Devourer. Overall, Maliwan pistols were an incredibly pleasant surprise. The Atomizer and the Blaster were both very solid options for full auto pistols, even if the Blaster is pretty much a direct upgrade from the Atomizer. But both perform incredibly well and hold up in stats to a lot of actual legendaries. Biggest downside is that as strong as these are, legendary Maliwan pistols are just a ridiculous bar to live up to. The Melter is a damn fun one though, and doesn't have the same thing to live up to because it actually functions very differently to almost any other legendary Maliwan pistol. Pretty much all of the legendary Melters don't function at all like the actual Melter itself, the only exception being the Frozen Devil, which is the Frozen Devil. This thing actually has a niche and is pretty cool. The only kind of shit pistol here is the Devourer, which even then is impressive when compared to a majority of the other alien barrel non-uniques. Maliwan pistols overall just absolutely slap. Moving on to SMGs, once again all of these are able to roll as ×2. And starting out here is the Quasar, being our middle fire rate with the lowest damage. After charging, this weapon also fires out a laser beam. And while on card the ×2 looks like it has less damage, that only shows the per projectile damage. Like other beam guns, the actual base damage is double the card damage. We're starting off incredibly middle of the road here. While it's surprising to see a non-unique beam weapon perform as well as the Quasar does, that's not at all to say that it's anything amazing. It's alright, but it takes a lot of bullets to kill a single trash mob while having pretty high time to kill on it. But holy shit, the recoil on this thing. Call it the Quasar, the way this shit would fist fuck your inner ear. With the ×2, I'd be much more willing to call this damage good, but it falls apart in every other possible way. Recoil happens even quicker, and the ammo consumption is even worse, at best taking an entire mag of like 80 bullets to kill a single trash mob, and at worst taking double that. The Pulsar is our middle damage but highest fire rate variant. The Pulsar is a big step up from the Quasar, even if it's still not anything too spectacular. It's definitely a good weapon, having a decent enough time to kill on it, and it's easily up there as one of the better purple SMGs, but that's not a huge bar to clear. The Pulsar does still consume a lot of ammo per kill, but considering it is SMG ammo, it's not as unforgivable as the amount of ammo the Quasar consumed. This felt a lot better all around. With the ×2, once again, better in damage, worse in ammo consumption. And the better damage definitely wasn't enough to offset the ammo cost, considering I ran dry before even getting close to fully clearing up to Kraken, whereas with the ×1 I still had almost half my pool left. The Nebula is our highest damage, lowest fire rate variant, also having slower projectile speed and now dealing splash damage. And you know, I really expected to come in here and be all like, heh, surprise, surprise, the splash gun wins again. But surprisingly enough, the drawbacks of the Nebula in the lower fire rate and slower projectile speed are enough to make it feel pretty in line with the Pulsar. It's like for the first time in this game, these guns are kinda balanced against each other by someone who understands the inherent benefit of splash gaining a whole other multiplier to benefit from and balance them accordingly. Both are just pretty mid weapons, with neither feeling particularly better than one another on their own. The Pulsar likely being better for the non-splash builds, with the Nebula cracking ass on splash focused builds. Good job to whoever worked on these two. With the ×2 though, this is where I'd say the Nebula sets itself apart as a stronger contender. That higher base damage really makes itself known when it gets further doubled. The ammo consumption is definitely a bit more of a problem here, but not nearly as bad since the better damage and lower fire rate is doing more to make up for it. This is the first of the ×2 SMGs I think is maybe worth using over the ×1. And finally, the Heliophage, being our alien barrel variant, having a very high fire rate and higher projectile speed at the cost of lower damage and higher ammo consumption. I barely got this through the intro. The classic alien barrel ammo cost strikes again, and unfortunately this thing doesn't have the damage to back up 2 ammo per shot at an 11.3 fire rate. And obviously, with the ×2 going up to 3 ammo per shot, it's not much better. Shockingly though, damage was way better and time to kill was decently low, allowing it to actually get further in Maliwan Takedown than the ×1 did, but it wasn't by much, and overall it still wasn't great. I really like Maliwan SMGs aesthetically and thematically. The smooth, sleek sci-fi designs here paired with with the very varied firing patterns and astronomical phenomena-themed names all come together to create a really cool package of a weapon type. I also really appreciate the heliophage specifically being a reference to Battleborn. Gearbox, please, MOBAs are having a resurgence, revive it, bring it back, I need it, please. I just wish that overall these weapons were better. As cool as they are, Maliwan SMGs are mid at best and complete worthless pig shit at worst. Granted, these are likely all around one of the better sets of non-unique SMGs, but that's not really saying too much. It's definitely a shame because damn do I love SMGs. Moving on to shotguns and starting out here with the Terminator. This is our middle damage per pellet and middle pellet count at ×6 and ×12. The Terminator charges before beginning to fire fully automatic shotgun blasts. We're starting off here with my personal favorite, the one that I always love to see during a playthrough, the Terminator, and I am so glad to say that damn does this gun hold up, and damn does it hold up pretty well. It dishes out some really good damage, and time to kill is incredibly good, but that isn't to say that it's absolutely perfect. It is a full auto shotgun with no inbuilt ammo sustain, and not quite enough damage to warrant how much ammo that it consumes. Damage also does somewhat fall off against badass enemies. The Terminator is a damn good gun and genuinely worth using if it's something you're into, you just can't use it for a very long time as a primary damage dealer. The ×12 is a bit of an odd one because while I could feel the difference in damage, it still overall felt pretty similar to the ×6, just with even worse ammo consumption problems. It's still a solid option, and I think either the ×6 or ×12 could be better, but I personally am more of a fan of the ×6. The Cyclotron is our lowest damage per pellet and lowest pellet count at ×5 and ×10. This weapon charges to release a 3-round burst. And we immediately take a fucking nosedive, holy shit. The Cyclotron not only feels like ass to use, but it also just is ass. Charging up to fire a burst shotgun feels incredibly awkward already, but when you have to do it 3 to 5 times to kill a single enemy, it feels completely atrocious in every way imaginable. Made even worse by the fact that sometimes I'd be dead on a stationary enemy and my projectiles would seem to phase right through them and do absolutely nothing. This thing is worse at its job than Sleep Token while feeling as awkward as shitting yourself during a prostate exam. ×10 is sorta better, but not by much and not by nearly enough to be worth using even remotely. Much like your mother, the Cyclotron just sucks dick, balls, and anything else it could get its lips around. The Shockwave is our highest damage per pellet and the highest pellet count variant at ×9, ×10, and ×18. This is another charge and release, but this fires out a large shockwave that damages all enemies hit within the area. This has an increased chance to ragdoll enemies and a limited range before disappearing. Hate. Let me tell you how much I've come to hate you since I began to live. There are 387.44 million miles of rollable weapons within this video game. If the word hate was engraved on each nano-angstrom of those hundreds of millions of miles, it would not equal 1/1 billionth of the hate I feel for the Shockwave at this micro instant. The Shockwave is frustrating because it is so fucking cool, yet it is awful. This shotgun is the only Maliwan shotgun I never want to see at any stage in the game. The Shockwave is inconsistent as hell on how it impacts enemies, it dissipates after a certain distance, making it completely limited in how you can use it, and it just does no fucking damage ever. The Shockwave sounds cool, it looks awesome, it actually feels good to use as well, and yet actually using the thing is a nightmare. Hate. With the ×18, the damage is slightly better when it decides it actually wants to do damage. It's also a little bit more consistent and actually somewhat usable, but it's still a shockwave and it's still shit. And finally, the Interloper being our alien barrel variant. The Interloper fires out discs that can bounce once before exploding on impact. High accuracy, high dot damage, high elemental effect chance, fully auto, no charge, and 4 ammo per shot. This can come as both ×1 and ×2. It's almost alright. It definitely had its moments and output some decent damage, but at 4 ammo per shot, it needs to be a lot better than it is. That being said, while this isn't really a dot build, I did hit some nasty dots with it that actually did some solid damage, so it's definitely possible that this is a good option for an actual dot build. But overall, the Interloper is another ammo-hungry alien barrel that doesn't offer too much in return. The ×2 goes up from 4 ammo per shot for 1 projectile to 5 ammo for 2, meaning you're now only consuming 2.5 0.5 ammo per projectile and giving you a bit of a better return on your investment. Unfortunately, it's still not really enough to be able to use this gun for any acceptable period of time, and it still doesn't kill all that well. Maliwan shotties were a pretty big disappointment. While the shockwave is at least shit at every stage of the game, the cyclotron, interloper, and terminator are all incredibly good finds for a story playthrough and weapons I always love picking up. But the only one that really holds up well into the endgame is the Terminator. But the disappointment does only go so far as their actual performance, because I'm a huge fan of how these guns are designed. Each and every one of them functions very differently from one another and holds a completely different niche rather than just having different variations of stats as most weapon types do. Maliwan shotties each hold a specific identity, and I wish that was something that more guns did. It's just a shame that in this case, 3 out of 4 of them kinda stink. And last but not least is the snipers, and starting out here with the multiplex being our middle fire rate and damage. After charging, this weapon fires fully automatic. Straight ass, which is disappointing, because during a playthrough the multiplex is often the one I'm most excited to see, but in the endgame the issues that come with the charge up fully auto sniper rifle begin to really show themselves. Damage itself is pretty miserable for consuming your limited sniper rifle ammo, asking for a lot and giving very little in return. The small mag size with a higher fire rate isn't awful with the base fire rate, but if you have any fire rate buffs then it becomes a nightmare. You blow your load way too fast and end up charging and reloading more often than you're actually firing. And again, when you're firing, you ain't even doing that much damage. Even when you land every single projectile, sometimes you won't even kill a trash mob. Holy fuck, I'm editing this video right now and I just realized I completely forgot to record this part, which is fitting. The particle rifle being our highest fire rate and highest damage, having a charge up and release to fire out a 3-round burst. The particle rifle felt shockingly similar to the multiplex, just with a different firing pattern to it. I do much prefer the charge and release for Maliwan snipers over charge and begin firing immediately, since it gives more control, but that's not enough to save this weapon. It's much better on ammo consumption, and sometimes felt like I could kill enemies quicker, but it was a lot more inconsistent in this regard, and overall averaged out to feel similar to the multiplex in damage output. Better charge method and nicer to your ammo pool, but overall still not worth using. The proton rifle has both the lowest base damage and fire rate, but it does deal splash damage, and while it can fire without charging, charging will increase the damage, projectile speed, and splash radius up to ×2. Similar to the melter, this ×2 applies to the base damage, effectively multiplying everything. This was the first to actually feel like it had real sniper damage, despite still being somewhat underwhelming. It would very often 2 to 3 shot with the potential for a 1 shot, but it wasn't 100% consistent like you'd usually want out of a sniper. I do think that likely this would perform significantly better on a proper splash build, and I could feel that there's definitely potential within the proton rifle. That, and I have seen what Lazy Data has done with this thing on Moe's. Proton rifle is solid, just a little bit build dependent. And finally, the antimatter rifle. This is a railgun, fires incredibly fast and very accurate projectiles that can pierce multiple targets and cannot be charged but acts as if it is charged, always having that ×2 to all damage. This leads to, of course, higher damage output than the card would suggest. The antimatter rifle consumes 3 ammo per shot. The antimatter rifle fucks, holy shit. The only complaint I have here is the ammo cost, and yeah, 3 sniper ammo per shot for something spammable is awful, and there's not much of an excuse, except for the fact that the damage this gun dumps out would be great for a legendary and is amazing for a purple. With some ammo sustained, the antimatter rifle could be a proper menace. Similar to shotguns, Maliwan snipers were surprisingly bad for how amazing they feel during a story playthrough. Genuinely one of my favorite things to see on a playthrough, yet the only one without any major drawback to it is the proton rifle, being a solid sniper option for splash builds. The antimatter rifle is also really nice, but you'd really have to be able to sustain it. Maliwan as a whole has quite the ups and downs. Where it's consistently up is in aesthetic, vibe, and weapon design. These guns look absolutely gorgeous, and I love how varied a lot of the functions are between each other. There's very few guns that feel similar to one another, which really can't be said about a lot of other manufacturers, and it's one of the biggest things that Maliwan has going for it. But performance-wise, it really comes down to a few standouts here and there, with the only consistently good weapon class being the pistols, which, granted, are very good, even if they kinda don't hold a purpose next to their legendary counterparts. That's gonna about do it for this one, though. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, definitely consider leaving a like, comment, subscribe, all of that. I'll be live right after this video goes up, right here on YouTube, and also over on my Twitch channel, where there will be a link to down in the description below, and just under that is a link to my Discord server where you can come and join and hang out. But with that all being said, I hope to see you guys in the next one.